All right, so you might be considering going on a cruise, and perhaps you're considering Royal Caribbean's Voyager of the Seas. And so I am here to tell you about my experience with Voyager of the Seas and Royal Caribbean. I've been on several cruises, and so I have a little bit of a frame of reference to kind of go by. And so this is not a professional video, as you can tell. I'm just sitting here in my office. I like to review things and help people because before my cruise, I did a lot of research on what to expect specifically out of this ship and tips and tricks and things like that to know before I go and make the best of my vacation. So this is not a total review video of the whole ship. It's not going to be a tour. It's just going to be a little bit about my experience. I've got videos and pictures to show you along the way, just that will hopefully help you and get you a little more informed before you go. And so I'm answering some questions that I had before I went, as well as just some more information beyond the questions that I had. So hopefully this will help you. But I'm going to start with kind of just like a little bit of a review. I'm going to give you some bummers, things that I was a little bummed out about, and also some perks, and then just end with some tips and tricks for you. Because overall, I do recommend this cruise. So while I will be giving you some things that I wasn't so happy with, at the end of the day, most of them are kind of splitting hairs, and they're in the interest of giving you some tips. So just so you know, it's not going to be a whole ship tour or anything like that. But this is probably my seventh cruise across three or four different cruise lines. So I have a little bit of experience. I'm not one of those people who's been doing this my whole life and, done 50 cruises, but I've done seven is a good number. So I've done enough cruises to kind of compare and enough cruise lines to compare Royal Caribbean across the others. Overall, I do like Royal Caribbean. This was not my first cruise with them. And so I cannot remember the name of the ship that I went on with them last before this, but this was Voyager. As of right now, this is December 2024. Voyager is now a few back in their line, but a few years ago it was their brand new biggest ship. You're going to see in this video a picture while we were in port of Voyager next to one of their newer ships, Icon, and see how much bigger Icon is. And it looked really cool. I'm actually really interested to try Icon now that I saw that. So a bit more about my specific cruise. I just got back from it. It's December 11th today. We went from December 5th through 9th, 2024, and we departed Port Canaveral on a Thursday afternoon. Friday was the perfect day at CocoCay. So CocoCay is Royal Caribbean's personal island. I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute. And then the next day was at sea, which I felt like it was a bit of a waste. I'll also get to that. Final day, full day of the cruise was Nassau, and then the fifth day, which was the ninth, that morning we disembarked back at Port Canaveral. Our ship had 3,800, 3,806 guests, including 650 children, we asked at guest services, which put our cruise ship not quite at capacity, but it was almost at capacity. And there were times it was really packed. I'm going to help you navigate that a little bit as well. So I'll start with the rooms. I had an interior room. I was traveling alone, in the fact that I had my own room. However, I was with a party of a few different families. We were going for my friend's 40th birthday, and they traveled with their families. So I was traveling with young children, though they were not mine and they were not in my room. I had my interior room, which I'm going to show you more of. And I also got to see a few other rooms. So I saw the inside of a balcony room that was a king bed room. And then I saw the inside of a handicap balcony room that my friend's mom and sister shared. And on top of that, I did poke my head into a room on the way out on disembarkation morning. It was, vacant. The people had already left and it was being cleaned, but I was curious to see. It was a balcony room that had a king bed and a fold out couch bed. So you can see that here. I will say in the room, they make use of all of the space. Most cruise lines do. This was no different. There was a cabinet in the bathroom mirror that I used for my makeup and toiletries and things like that. I liked keeping them off of the sink area because it's not huge. And they even had storage on the mirror that was behind the bed. So, really cool way, that they kind of just found out all the little places that you could store some things. So, the bathroom. Like I said, it has a corner storage cabinet in the mirror. The shower was a little tight. I mean, it wasn't really any different than any other cruise ship, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. In fact, it's not much smaller than my shower at home. They do provide soap in it's a liquid soap in one little dispenser that serves as a shampoo and a body wash. You want to bring your own conditioner if you plan to use that. And that soap smelled mostly like coconut. It had some other scents in there that they said that smells like coconut to me. The water pressure in the shower was incredible, and I liked that the shower head was height adjustable. I'm 6'2", and I had no problem standing underneath it when I adjusted it to its highest point, which is a problem at different hotels and places I stay. So I was impressed that on a cruise ship of all places where its space is tight, I was actually quite comfortable in the shower. The TV flattens against the wall and pulls out so you can see it. There is a safe also that is easy to set. It gives you instructions on how to set the code. And there is also a refrigerator for drinks. I've been told you can bring a 12 pack of non alcoholic drinks on board, though I didn't try myself. I just ended up grabbing some bottles of water on our excursion at CocoCay. It was included in our little package that we bought there that I'm going to get to in a minute. And there were some extras, so I brought them back, and that was our first day on the cruise. So I had some bottled water in my room the whole time, which was really nice for the evenings. Um, as far as back to the room, there were a lot of hangers in the closet, which was really great, and a decent amount of shelf space. I recommend that once you get your bags that first night, that just go ahead and unpack everything, put it in the drawers, the cabinets, the closet, and put your suitcases underneath the bed, and then you won't feel so crowded in the room. So I liked also that they had a light switch for the whole room behind the bed. My bed was a king bed that was pushed together. It was two twins pushed together, which was fine. And that if it's two separate people, they're going to separate into two twins bed, in which case that light switch will be between your beds. But I liked that because then you didn't have to get out of bed to turn off the lights once you're already in there and cozy. They also had good personal lamps next to each side of the bed, and also reading lights built into those lamps on a separate switch. So really a lot of lighting options. I was impressed with that. Additionally, they had a really cool motion sensing light in the little entry hall there next to the bathroom. So you did have some light when you got up out of bed to use the bathroom in the night. That light would stay on for about 10 or 15 seconds, and it wasn't too bright. So I don't think it would bother another member of your party if they were still in bed, but it's bright enough that you can see. There's also a dial in the room that allows you to turn on and adjust the volume of the ship announcements inside of your room or to switch them off totally. Mine never actually worked to get the announcements into the room, and the other two parties that I was with, three parties, I'm sorry, said that in their rooms the dial did not work either. So they might have disabled that now on the whole ship. I'm not sure. But there's also a European style plug next to that in the room. And so if you pack a converter, like a European to US converter, that would give you some additional plug space. Plug space is limited. I'm going to give you some tips on that and things you can and cannot bring to help with your plug space towards the end of the video. So like I said, my friends had a handicap balcony room and regular balcony rooms. So I'll tell you a little about those. The handicap room had a very large bathroom. It was enough to easily get a wheelchair or a walker, in her case, into and to turn it around. So no concern there. And same with the actual bedroom itself. You could get into the center of that room and turn everything around that you needed to. The room, or I said that. So the bathroom also had a roll-in shower, and it was just kind of part of the bathroom and separated by a curtain, so you could also very easily get there. There were also very handy little ramps into the bathroom and onto and off of the balcony of the room, so that you didn't have to worry about trying to force a wheelchair or a rollerator over that. You could just go ahead and nice and easily ramp up on into there. So my friends that had the non-handicapped balcony room, was larger than my interior room, not by a ton, but enough. They fit their family of four. They have two small children in there who share a king bed with them, and so it was just one king bed. They had a balcony that fit two chairs, a table, and then a little more space. So we all actually comfortably, their whole family of four, and then myself watched the cruise pull away from that balcony, and we were all very comfortable there. So a pretty spacious balcony, I would say. I did poke my head into somebody else's room that was being cleaned, and that one had a pull-out couch bed. So there's lots of different options as far as room layouts and things like that. They also did make me some fun little towel animals. I got some dogs. I think they were both different dogs I got, and then my friends got a cute monkey that they hung from a hanger from the ceiling, and so it was good. The interior room was the tightest of all the rooms that I saw. Like I said, I was traveling alone in that room this time. If my husband had been along with me, he could have also fit in that room with his stuff. That would have been the max I would put in that room, though. If you have more than 2 people, I probably would not try to fit anyone else in that room. Um, so things I liked, I will say the perfect day at CocoCay, I thought was kind of corny, the whole little shtick there, perfect day, but it really was perfect. I was really impressed. So I had actually been to this same island about 10 years ago when it was still owned by Carnival on a Carnival cruise. And Royal Caribbean bought it a few years back and totally overhauled the island. And man, it is mind blowing. I wouldn't have known it was the same place, but that I actually researched it and read that online. So there's lots of things to do on CocoCay. They did have 2 ships. This is where you'll see the picture of the Voyager, which we were on next to the Icon of the Seas. And so there were 2 ships full of people. There can be the attendant told us, up to 10,000 people, I think they said, on that island in a day. So it can get very crowded. So you have the option to just go search and find a beach chair and do all that stuff. If you can, I would opt for one of the more exclusive areas. There are lots of them that vary in price range. And so they have the Hideaway Bay or whatever that's called for just adults. We did the Coco Beach Club, and there's a few options even within that. We did one of the overwater cabanas, the floating cabanas. So we did get that on a sale. When you're booking this, I would say don't book your excursions right away because they run sales all the time. We booked this a year before and we downloaded the app, and you can get on the app all the time. There's always sales running. So unless you see a sale, I would just wait to buy. That's just my 2 cents, unless you really like want to guarantee a spot, I guess. But we didn't have trouble getting into anything we wanted to get into. So on a sale, we bought that overwater cabana, and it ended up for our party of 10 being about $185 per person. Now that included the overwater cabana for the whole day, our own personal attendant who brought us anything we wanted, drinks and everything within whatever drink package you have applies also on the island. I had the soda package. I had friends with the cocktail package. They did actually end up bringing me some mocktails that I didn't have to pay for additionally, which was really nice. And then they have an upgraded menu. So they have lots of stuff, appetizers and food and desserts all through the day. And then you actually order lunch. So for lunch, you have some really nice things that on the ship are an upgrade, but included in the package were things like lobster tail, filet mignon, really nice things. So I will say the filet mignon was exquisite, really great, both on the ship and then also, which it is an upcharge on the ship. And then it was part of our package at CocoCay, really good. I did not have lobster tail on the ship. One of my beefs that I'll get to later is that now you have to pay for a lobster on the ship. You didn't used to have to do that. But the lobster that I did have that was included at CocoCay, really big, juicy lobster tails, where they looked like they should have been juicy. They were quite overcooked. So, yeah, whatever. It was still lobster tail, I guess, but um, it was good. The rest of the food was pretty good. Across the board, the desserts were pretty underwhelming. I will say the cookies were pretty good though, and that's ship, CocoCay, everything. So I will say, for as crowded as CocoCay looked, anything you can do to isolate yourself from that crowd and get into a little more exclusive area is absolutely worth the money. It made it feel like that day. It made it feel like we were in one of those like 5-star all-inclusive resorts. Very attended to, very relaxing. They had a really cool hammock over the water. I spent most of my day in that. You can see it here, and it was right over the water. I would read there and everything like that. There is a lot of wildlife on CocoCay, so be aware. I was swimming and I encountered a shark who I learned his name is Jeffrey, and he's just their lemon shark that swims around these cabanas. Lemon sharks are pretty docile, but I still would prefer not to be in the water with one, and so I just calmly pulled my legs up onto my little floating ball that I was holding, and he swam on by and did his thing. And then as I was still swimming back, a stingray came by. So lots of wildlife. You don't have to be scared of that. Just, be cautious. It is wildlife. But it actually made for some pretty cool pictures, which you can see. So I will say the Coco Beach Club that we were in was a pretty long walk from the ship. So they do have a tram for quicker transportation and also for people who are handicapped, which we did have one in our party. And it also helped for smaller kids, which we also had in our party. I would say the attendant at the cabana told us to leave. We had to be on the ship at 4:30, leave by 4 because it takes a good 30 minutes, and we really almost missed that time because the tram fills up. You don't think about that. So I would say even 45 minutes ahead of the time you need to be on the ship if you're way back, especially on the island like we were, and you need the tram or you want the tram because the small kids were done and they needed to ride too, along with our handicapped member of our party. The tram does back up. So a few of us walked and to try to tell the ship to wait. We ended up not having to do that. But the tram does fill up. So just be aware of that when you're on CocoCay. So again, we had a private attendant who brought us food and drinks all day, and she was great. And the staff, I can't speak highly enough. For a few of the gripes that I have that I'll get to in this video about this cruise, the staff never was one of them. They were always phenomenal, always attentive, fantastic, friendly, and they felt like they actually wanted to be there and were, not just doing, going through the motions. So about drink packages. So you have all the different levels you can get. I opted last minute for the soda package. They are discounted ahead of the cruise, so I got it like 2 days before the cruise for $9 a day. I probably got my money's worth out of it. If I had to go back, I probably wouldn't do it just because I drink about one soda a day, and they have a lot of other options. They tell you included is coffee, which the coffee is fantastic. I'll get to that in a minute. Just regular drip coffee is part of the package, lemonade, tea, water, and they actually had more available than that. So they have, of course, all the breakfast juices in the morning are free, and then they have during lunch and dinner, they had like the strawberry kiwi juice that was there with the lemonade. So they actually had a few things beyond what they say. That strawberry kiwi juice was a surprise. I didn't actually try it, but it was there if I wanted to. Again, the coffee was really good. I was a little nervous because one of the upgraded packages, I think maybe the mocktails package, you get lots of other coffee drinks, and so it was like upgraded coffee, and you get iced coffee and the Starbucks coffee and all that. And so I was like, oh man, their coffee is going to be garbage, their regular coffee, and I needed my morning cup. It was super super good. The only thing they didn't have that I usually use is stevia, which that's whatever. They had non-sugar sweeteners and things like that. I didn't notice any non-dairy options for milk, though they might have had them. I wasn't looking, so don't quote me on that. But they had skim milk, whole milk, half and half. I was able to make great coffee every morning, and it was widely available. And the buffet and the Cafe Promenade has it like 24/7, which is great. So if I had to do again, I probably would not do the soda package. I feel like I would have rather paid for the one-off soda that I might have wanted here and there. I ended up doing that with mocktails and cocktails a few times because I just don't drink heavily, and I was not going to get that money's worth out of. All told, I spent about $60 on board, and that was getting extra things that I wanted. I wasn't trying to limit it necessarily. So, um, for reference on board, if you are going to pay those one-off prices, one cocktail was about $12. I got that on deck. Wine, which I got a couple of nights, is $12 to $14 a glass. It's also available by the bottle if you want to buy it by the bottle. And beer was about $8 per beer. The one thing about the soda package is you do get this cup. At least at the time of this filming, you get a cup that you use. It has this little chip in the bottom, and you set that chip on the soda. They have the Coke Freestyle machines, and they had so many flavors of soda and things that I've never tried. So I mean, they had Fanta Zero, which I had never heard of, and then they had like peach Fanta Zero. There's all these different flavors, just stuff. They had all these different flavors of Powerade and all kinds of sodas that I had never tried. So I actually did enjoy trying some of those new sodas. But if that's really important to you, $8 a day, that's not bad. But the other thing is I disliked having to haul that cup around. That was kind of annoying, and it's not spill proof. So if it's empty and you stick it in your bag like I did, it is going to drip on something. But you don't have to haul that cup around. You can go to any bar with your card and you still get your soda. You're just not going to have as many options as the freestyle machine. So it was nice to have. I don't think I would need to do that again if I. And it's also kind of gross because you have that cup for 5 days and you don't wash it. I was trying to like rinse. I don't know, whatever. Not for me. Another cool thing was the ship was decorated for Christmas, which was a nice touch. Like I said, the staff was fantastic. The ship had very good signage throughout, so it was very easy to navigate. And the staff, when I couldn't find something, was always really knowledgeable. And all the staff were. I would ask the dining staff about something with disembarkation, something they have nothing to do with, and they had all the details. So, and all the staff was like that. They just really knew what was going on. Another cool thing was there was this library and card games area on board, and it seemed well utilized every time I passed through it. There's a good number of people in there, so that's a cool feature on the ship. Something you must try on the cafe promenade is the oatmeal raisin cookies. Oh, they were so good. And a few times I got them, they were like super chewy and good. There was a couple times they may have been sitting there a little longer, but they were still very tasty. Again, cafe promenade is where you can get coffee basically all day and all night. The pizza is also available on cafe promenade, and it was meh. I mean, I had one piece and I was all set. I didn't need any more. But for kids, probably they don't care, and I'm sure it's the best thing in the world for them. Um, so here's some of the food that I ate if you want to see some pictures and you're a foodie. I only started taking pictures later in the cruise and when I thought about it, so this is pretty hit or miss. It's everywhere. But here is the beef bourguignon. I don't know, bourguignon, I think is how you say it. This was on French night, and it was really, really yummy. Probably one of the better dinners that I had. Here is the bread pudding from the Windjammer Cafe. It was one of the best desserts that I had. They also had chocolate bread pudding on another day, which was good, but I prefer the regular, which is surprising. Most everything chocolate on the ship was very underwhelming, which is a shame because I really enjoy chocolate. Um, this is a plate from the Windjammer at lunch. There were Cuban sandwiches on this plate and several desserts. I did eat more than just the desserts. The desserts were underwhelming, like I said, for the most part, though on this specific plate, the Oreo cream cup was pretty good and the oatmeal raisin cookie was also good. The Cuban sandwich was fine, but I needed to get two and put the filling from the one onto the other to give the one sandwich that I ate more filling because they were mostly bread. This was a pea risotto that my vegetarian friend got. I can't remember which night it was. She said it was average. There were surprisingly few vegetarian options on the menu, and most of them were Indian dishes. The Indian dishes were tasty, though. I had some of them. Not pictured because it was delicious was also a mushroom risotto that I highly recommend. I believe it was served on Italian night. I definitely would get that. This is a beef carpaccio that was also on Italian night. It was an appetizer. I didn't care for it, but I think it's just because it wasn't for me. I think if this is the type of thing that you like, you might enjoy it. So it seemed like a high quality, just maybe not for me. I had never tried it before, which is why I was interested to try it. This is the crispy Parmesan arancini, I think is how you say it, which was another appetizer from Italian night. It was all right, but it could have had a little more flavor. I ordered the New York strip a couple of different times and it was great both times. And it was also cooked exactly to my requested temperature, medium rare, which is often hard to get at a restaurant. So I was impressed with that. It was also well seasoned. For breakfast, most mornings, I had French toast, bacon, and then made my own little breakfast scramble, which is that pile of stuff you see on the side there. If you're interested in the scramble, I recommend it. I made it by putting a hash brown and eggs on the bottom, followed by some shredded cheese, corned beef hash, sometimes bacon or sausage, and then smothering it with the sausage gravy that is next to the biscuits. Very good. So let's move on to kind of the sad part of the video, which is my list of bummers about the cruise. But we will finish with some tips and things that were positive. So again, keeping all of these things in mind, remember that I do recommend this cruise on the whole. So probably my biggest gripe was that when I arrived, the room could have been cleaner. So this is always kind of the thing I look out for on ships as well. So I got in there. I have a lot of children, very small children. I'm used to things being dirty, so I wouldn't consider myself a clean freak. But I got in there, and the room was very presentable overall. I sat down though and I looked at the TV before I turned it on, and there was like fingerprints smeared all over, and not fingerprints, that get on the TV when kids touch it, like they had stuff on their hands and there was stuff caked that I could have like flaked off on the TV. It was gross. So it wasn't just average fingerprints on the TV. It was like there was stuff on the TV, and it seemed like it would be kind of difficult to miss when you're cleaning the room. The other thing is that when I came to time to leave and I was clearing the room, I'd already packed my bags. I was looking under the beds and in drawers and things like that. I looked under my couch and I saw what I thought was a credit card. So I pulled it out. And it was actually a student ID from somebody else, Vanessa, somebody who had been on this in this room before me. And it wasn't super far under the couch, so it shouldn't have been easy to miss. And so it just kind of gave me a hint on how thoroughly they clean the rooms. So just be advised, I did when I got there. I had antibacterial hand wipes after I saw the TV. I wiped it on the TV and most surfaces in my room. So you might bring some Clorox wipes with you if that's kind of a thing for you. I was happy that I had some of those. So the also when I got on board, the ship kind of smelled like an old cafeteria. I think they're just turning so many people through there because you get on, they have everybody off of the ship by 10 o'clock, and at 10:30 they're loading everybody else for the next cruise on. So it's a really quick turnover. It is super impressive how they do that. It's just it doesn't give a lot of time for the ship to air out. That did go away, that smell. Either that or I got used to it, but I just really noticed that when I got on board. So it was something that just that paired with the getting to the room experience wasn't my favorite. So another gripe that I had was the upcharges on the ship. So in past cruises, I was actually really excited to get lobster tail like every night at dinner. And I get there, and the first night at dinner, it's $17 for a lobster tail on top of. And so I was a little frustrated because that used to be kind of one of the perks of I'm on a cruise. I can eat the nice food and I can have as much of it as I want. And now it's upcharged for that, for filet mignon, and then I think there was one other thing that I can't remember. There is New York strip a few nights that is included in the menu in the main dining room. So, and it was very good. But I was just kind of like a little miffed about that because it was something I'd been looking forward to. I did not have the lobster tail on the ship, but if you remember and you watched back at my part of this video about CocoCay, it was overcooked. So don't know how it is in the dining room. Didn't try it. But the filet mignon was phenomenal. Like I said, when I did have it. The Windjammer Cafe is their buffet. It's on deck 11, and it can get very, very packed. I recommend do not go there right when you get on the ship because everybody's like, I'm gonna get on the ship and I'm gonna have some lunch because it's free. So do 3,000 of your best friends had the same idea. So just keep that in mind. It was very crowded. It's better to try to go on off times. This is probably an obvious tip, but if you're going right at lunchtime or right at dinner time or just right when people are kind of getting back on the ship from an excursion, those are not good times to go. So again, the dessert across the ship was underwhelming. This is like the third time I've mentioned that, I know, but I was really kind of not happy about that. The chocolate, all the chocolate desserts on Carnival were better. So if that's going to be a make or break for you, just to let you know that. The best dessert that I had was between the bread pudding, which I already mentioned that at the Windjammer Cafe, and the tiramisu on Italian night in the main dining room. And they also had smaller cups of it on the Windjammer because I did go back there later to get some more. Was really good. You can taste the alcohol soaked into it. It's not that that's why you get it, but it was very authentic, very yummy. So this is not really a gripe so much as just a heads up that there are no plugs in the bathroom and there are no plugs right next to the bed. This will feed into a tip that I give you later, but there is a hair dryer that is complimentary in the room. It is provided, not you can't take it with you, not complimentary in that way, but there is a hair dryer provided. You just can't use it in the bathroom. So another kind of bummer was I felt like the day at sea was not necessary. So between the ports of CocoCay and Nassau, which if you look on a map are very close to each other, we had a day at sea, and I was like, "What are we doing? Swimming in circles?" And I pulled up the little map in my room on my TV, and sure enough, we were just driving in circles from Florida to the Bahamas and back, which seems like a giant waste of gas. Kind of ironic because in the bathroom they have all their little conservation things about their towels. And so, but they're burning all this gas just driving around. I would have rather just stayed at CocoCay for another day and been able to explore that island a little more, or really just ported anywhere else. But just driving around and being stuck on the ship all day, though there is a lot to do, was kind of a bummer and felt like they were trying to just squeeze more money out of you because you're stuck on the ship. You have to spend money, and if they're ported at CocoCay, that's one less ship full of people that they can pull through there to get their money. So it just felt a little yeah. So there were also with two of the shows technical difficulties. They had a rhythm and rhyme show, which was kind of a Broadway music show, and it was fine. All the shows were fine. Nothing blew my mind. But they had to cancel that first show. I don't know if they canceled the second show that night too because there were two showings and they had to push it to another night. So we'd been sitting there with small children for like 15 minutes, and they finally just canceled the show. There was also a magician that we saw, and he also had technical difficulties during his show, though he handled it very well. So two more, and then I promise I'll be stop being such a bummer about this cruise. First is the formal photos were not as easily accessed as other cruises I've been on. So the only time I really noticed that they were obvious, unless there were other parts of the ship they were on and I just didn't notice other times, was formal night. And so outside of the main dining room, you can go out and they had two spots set up there, and one spot on the promenade. We went at Christmas time, so I'm not sure if they always have the spot on the promenade, but there's a big Christmas tree in the promenade, and had a professional photographer taking pictures there. They also had in front of the main dining room two spots, which we did both. We did our group in front of this white background, and then there was the individual families got their pictures in front of this fireplace scene, Christmas fireplace scene. The group photo on the white background, we assumed they would superimpose us onto, they always do that in front of the ship or something like that. And they don't. You just get yourself on a white background, which kind of stinks because it's just a weird background. And we tried photoshopping it ourselves, and it just, you can tell it's photoshopped onto a ship background. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. And it was also just usually on other cruises I've been on, there's tons of opportunities all through the cruise to get your picture formally taken, and I didn't notice that as much on this cruise. So, the last random gripe about anything, but the freestyle cups that you get that I told you about for the soda package, they don't fit in the cup holders in the theater. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna stop and get a drink, and, on my way to the theater, and then you do, and you have to hold your cup the whole time because they don't fit. They do have a bar in the theater, so you can just go get your soda there. But if you wanted something freestyle that they don't have available at the bar, then you're stuck with holding your drink. So again, none of these are reasons not to take this cruise. They're just things I would like to tell you. Maybe you can problem solve around them, or just, temper your expectations around these things. But overall, it was a great cruise. So, some tips if you've been waiting for that. So, for the shows, I have a few tips. First is the ice skating show. We went to that on the first night. The seating is limited just by the nature of it's not as big of a theater as the main theater. So it is a special ice skating rink, and you can go ice skating in there. We didn't do that, but they do have ice shows. The seating was limited, so get there a little bit earlier, because if you get there, 5 minutes before, you're going to have a hard time seating your group together. For the shows that are in the Royal Theater, which is their main auditorium, I feel like you can just get there kind of at showtime or right before, and you'll be fine, except for the magician. The magician that we saw is not there every cruise, so I'm not sure what they're filling that spot with, if they just have another magician. But if there's a magic show, get there early, because though that is a much bigger theater, it did fill up. So that was the only show I went to in there, and I went to several that the auditorium was basically completely full. If you go to the Love and Marriage show, it's given a rating of PG on the little app. It is not a PG show, though I did not have my children with me, and when I went, I just went with a friend, an adult friend, and her kids were not with her. I would have been mortified to have my kids sitting in that show. You just don't know what's going to come out of people's mouths. Usually, it's a pretty funny show. It's a lighthearted show. It's fine for adults, but there were several f bombs dropped, and lots of innuendo. So just steer clear. It is not PG if you have children. Um, some tips for your room. So I had the interior room, and I don't think that this matters for that specifically, because there are people walking the halls at all hours of the night, and there's kids on the cruise that are running there early in the night, and they're being loud and they're excited, and then there's adults who are coming in late from the bar and maybe being a little noisy. Bring a sound machine. You can check out this little sound machine. I will put a link to it. I got it on Amazon in the comments, the section below description. You can check out a link there, but it's very small and easy to carry, and I felt like it put out a good bit of sound. It definitely drowned out any hallway sound that I had. So you have like 15 different options for sounds on there, and you can adjust the volume and everything. So that was helpful. I also brought a little cruise approved fan. I actually got this tip from some other YouTube video that I can't remember now. Sorry, I wish I could get credit, but it's a cruise approved fan. And also, you can find the link for that in the description below. But the cool thing is, it's magnetic, so it hooks to your ceiling, it hooks to your walls, wherever. And so this was helpful when I was blow drying my hair. It would make the room pretty hot because it's a small room, and so I ran that fan, and it kept me from just sweating while I was getting ready for dinner. Another thing is a long phone cord. So you're going to want to bring a multi-USB brick. So I told you I was going to get to this later. There's only 2 plugs in your whole room. And so you'd be surprised how many things you actually need to charge besides just your phone usually. So you cannot bring extension cords. They are not allowed. You cannot bring power strips. They are not allowed. They will take those at the port. But you can bring those multi-USB adapters. And so where you can plug like 3 USB cords or 4 USB cords into one plug. So again, I'll link that below. But that was really, really helpful in charging. I was one person, and I was using all of my outlets. So I was charging my sound machine, my fan, my earbuds, and my phone. But the last thing that you want is at least a 10-foot phone charging cord, the actual cord. So it will reach from that part on your vanity over to your bed. I would say even 12 feet if you're on the opposite side of the bed. So that's really nice, because then you can just charge your phone while you're in bed and leave it on your bedside table. Another tip that I had seen online was to bring night lights to use in your bathroom, so that you don't have to turn the light on at night and you can see, especially an interior cabin. There is no outside light. I brought some. I didn't actually end up using them. So again, there's actually not, or at least in my room, there were not outlets in the bathroom. And I felt like the lighting wasn't a problem because of that light I told you about earlier that is automatic over the bathroom door. It's motion sensor, and that was really, really helpful. Something to check before you leave on your passport is that it is good 6 months past the date that you will be returning to the United States, not 6 months past the date you leave for your trip 6 months past the date that you return. That is true for any international travel. It's also true for this cruise to the Bahamas. Another tip about the ship and navigating the ship is that the elevators get full pretty quickly, especially around the time of your arrival onto the ship and your disembarkation from the ship, when people are also carrying bags a lot of times too. They also get crowded around porting times and meal times. So take the stairs when possible. It's going to save you a lot of time on your cruise. My room was towards the rear of the ship on the ninth floor. So it was actually a quick, 2 floors up to the windjammer, which I would take the stairs a lot, and a few flights down to the main dining room. And so that was really nice because I was in the aft part of the ship, and that's right there where the dining areas are. So the dining areas are right off of the stairs and super easy to get to. It was very convenient. If you get seasick, book your room as low in the ship as possible and as center in the ship as possible. So you don't want front or back and you don't want tippy top. You want low and center, and that's going to help. Also bring Dramamine. It helped me immensely. I will say be careful of the seasick patches. I didn't use them myself, but one of my friends did, and she got the blurred vision and a lot of problems, ended up with an eye infection. And so just be wary of those, the side effects from anything, and also from Dramamine, anything you take. I'm not a doctor. Someone did tell me, you can see this video walking through the casino. Somebody did tell me that the casino on this ship is smaller than those on Carnival ships. I don't spend a lot of time in the casino on a cruise, so that's just FYI if you are big into the casino. I was walking through the casino right now during the day, so I did not go through it at night, and I'm not sure how crowded it gets, but I'm sure it's more crowded than this because a lot of the stuff was closed for the day. Casino is also always closed when you're in port, so keep that in mind. Another tip, or just some basic information, is that the night before you disembark, your room attendant will leave bag tags, boarding instructions, and a tip envelope on your bed. You also have the option to choose a disembarking plan on the app. If you need assistance with your bags, you have to tag them and leave them in the hall in front of your room by 10 p.m. I didn't do that. I did the self assist where you handle your bags yourself. So I was allowed to disembark anytime that morning. Note that for my cruise at least, you had to be out of your room by 8 a.m. no matter what time you selected for disembarkation. And the breakfast buffet shuts down at 8:30 a.m. that morning. Another tip is when you're using the Royal Caribbean app, which you will hopefully use a lot on the ship, and your sea pass is on there, so you're going to need to use it to get on and off the ship. Watch the times on the app of the things that are happening on the ship that day. There were 2 times when my friend and I went to go to an event and we arrived and it wasn't happening. They either canceled it or they had moved the location, so we had to race all the way to the other side of the ship. And that happened 2 times. So, and we had just checked a few hours before, okay, we're good. 6 o'clock is when this is happening. And then sure enough, we get there and it's not happening. So they can change things up to pretty close to the time of the event. So just check that. That happened a few times. So another tip is to bring a bag to carry on to the ship when you get on the ship. Anything with you that you need before that first evening. So you can get on the ship as early as 10:30 a.m. So if you want to hit the pool, for instance, bring your bathing suit, because you might not get your bags till later that day. My boarding time was noon. I got on the ship probably by 12:10. The boarding process was super easy, way easier than any cruise I've ever gotten onto. But I didn't receive my bags until like 4:50 p.m., like 10 minutes before we had a 5 o'clock dinner scheduled. And so, and I know that if you have a later boarding time, because you can get on until I think 1:30 or 2 or something like that, you're probably not going to get your bags until well after dinner. So just keep that in mind. Anything that you might want to use that first day, just keep it in a carry-on bag with you that you're not letting them handle and bring to your room. Another tip is that if you can, stay on the ship during a port day. So I had actually been to Nassau several times before, and so I chose that day to stay on the ship because I had never opted to do that while we were in port before, and it was a great decision. I highly recommend it. Um, if you don't have your heart set on a certain shore excursion, there's a lot available to you on the ship, and it's empty. It's like you almost have your own personal ship. Especially the pools, which they get crowded very easily. So I actually spent most of that day on the deck. I had a great seat, just laying in the sun and reading my book. And I noticed that as probably an hour, 30 minutes to an hour before the boarding time, which was 2:30 that day, to be back on the ship, everything started to fill up again. There were no chairs. The pool was slammed, and you can even see here that the hot tub was so crowded that there was actually standing room only, which to me defeats the purpose of relaxing in a hot tub. So avoid this if you can, and if you're able to stay on the ship in a port day, then definitely take that opportunity. So, last and final tip, if you opt not to do a drink package at all, like not the soda package or anything, bring some water flavors or dry drink packets like these to add to water and just mix up your drinks. So you can really kind of just have it your way, whatever you want. If you have some options like this that are easy to toss into a purse or a backpack, and so you don't have to buy the drink package to still have flavored drinks. And like I said, there were actually a lot of drinks available besides just water that were included with no drink package, and there was actually even more than were listed on the website. So I hope that that helped you if you are considering this or any cruise. Hopefully, that gives you a little more insight into specifically Royal Caribbean's Voyager of the Seas. And even if you're not, hopefully, some of those tips will help you wherever you're cruising. But overall, I had a great trip. I really recommend it. I had done the Bahamas before, and this did not disappoint. So, Royal Caribbean does a really great job at what they do. There are certain things that you can kind of expect, like, there's a lot of food smells on the ship and things like that. This is probably going to be true of any ship just by the nature of them turning people over all the time. So, like I said early in the video, a lot of the things that I gave as cons for this cruise are kind of splitting hairs because overall it's a really great experience. So, if you are able to do it, definitely check out Voyager of the Seas.